The angel of room 237. The little girl's scream echoed through the hospital corridor at 2:47 a.m., then stopped abruptly, too abruptly. By the time the night supervisor reached room 237, Nurse Rebecca Hayes was already there, cradling the child, whispering soothing words. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Everything appeared fine. But this was the fourth time this month the child had crashed on Rebecca's shift, and the fourth time she had been the one to save them. No one suspected the angel of the pediatric ward was the very person making children die. Rebecca Hayes had worked at St. Catherine's Children's Hospital for 6 years. At 32, she was the nurse every parent requested, the one who volunteered for extra shifts, who remembered every child's favorite cartoon character, who decorated the rooms with handmade paper butterflies. She had soft brown eyes that radiated compassion, a gentle voice that could calm the most frightened child, and a reputation as the best pediatric nurse in the entire hospital. The cards taped to the bulletin board above her station told the story. "Thank you for saving Emma's life. You're an angel sent from heaven. We'll never forget what you did for our son." Dr. Marcus Webb had worked alongside Rebecca for 4 years. He trusted her completely, or at least he had until 3 months ago. It started with a pattern he couldn't quite articulate. Children who were stable would suddenly deteriorate on Rebecca's shifts. Their vitals would plummet, alarms would sound, and Rebecca would be there within seconds, implementing emergency protocols, administering medications, performing CPR if needed. She was always calm, always competent, always successful in bringing them back. The children survived. Every single one. Rebecca's quick thinking and skilled intervention saved them. The parents were grateful. The hospital administration praised her. She'd been given 2 commendations for outstanding patient care in the past year alone. But Dr. Webb kept noticing. The emergencies only happened when Rebecca was on duty. They only happened to children under her direct care. And they were happening with increasing frequency. Dr. Webb began keeping notes. On February 3rd, 7-year-old Aiden Cooper experienced sudden respiratory distress at 11:15 p.m. Rebecca was his nurse. She responded immediately, and Aiden recovered fully. On February 17th, 5-year-old Maya Patel's heart rate dropped dangerously low at 3:22 a.m. Rebecca was there, administering the right medication, saving her life. On March 2nd, 9-year-old Jacob Morrison went into cardiac arrest at 1:45 a.m. Rebecca performed CPR until the code team arrived. Jacob survived. 3 incidents in 1 month, all on Rebecca's shifts. All children who had been stable before the emergency. All children who survived because of Rebecca's intervention. Dr. Webb looked back through the records. Over the past 18 months, there had been 23 unexpected critical incidents in the pediatric ward. Rebecca had been the primary nurse for 21 of them. She had been directly involved in saving all 21 children. The statistical probability of this pattern occurring by chance was infinitesimal. Dr. Webb's hands shook as he closed the files. He was contemplating something unthinkable, that a nurse was deliberately harming children so she could be the hero who saved them. But he had no proof. Just statistics, patterns, and a growing sense of dread. He needed to be careful. False accusations against a beloved nurse would destroy his credibility and potentially ruin an innocent woman's life. But if he was right and did nothing, more children would be put at risk. Dr. Webb decided to watch. 10-year-old Sophie Chun was admitted to St. Catherine's on March 15th for a routine appendectomy. The surgery went perfectly. She was expected to recover quickly and go home within 3 days. Rebecca Hayes was assigned as her primary nurse. "You're going to be just fine, sweetheart," Rebecca told Sophie, adjusting her blankets with practiced care. "I'll be right here all night, watching over you." Dr. Webb observed this interaction from the hallway. He had quietly arranged with the night supervisor to be on call that evening, though he wasn't scheduled. He had a terrible feeling about Sophie Chen, though he couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the fact that Rebecca had specifically requested to be her nurse, even though she had a full patient load already. At 1:30 a.m., Dr. Webb sat in the doctor's lounge, drinking cold coffee and monitoring patient charts on his tablet. Sophie Chen's vitals were stable. Rebecca had checked on her 3 times in the past hour, more frequently than protocol required. At 2:15 a.m., Sophie's heart rate monitor showed irregularities. Dr. Webb stood up, his pulse quickening. He walked quickly toward Sophie's room. Through the window, he could see Rebecca inside, alone with the sleeping child. She was doing something near Sophie's foreline. The heart monitor alarm suddenly blared. Sophie's heart rate was dropping rapidly. Rebecca's voice rang out urgently. Code Blue, room 237. I need a crash cart. Staff came running. Dr. Webb entered the room. Sophie was in full cardiac arrest. Rebecca was already performing chest compressions, her face showing controlled intensity, her movements expert and precise. Come on, Sophie, Rebecca said firmly. Stay with me, sweetheart. Stay with me. The code team arrived with the crash cart. Dr. Webb stepped in, taking over. They administered epinephrine. Rebecca continued compressions. After 90 seconds that felt like an eternity, Sophie's heart rhythm returned. The little girl gasped, her eyes fluttering open. You're okay, baby, Rebecca said, tears streaming down her face. You're okay. I've got you. Linda Chen burst into the room, frantic. What happened? She was fine. After the crisis was resolved and Sophie was stabilized, Dr. Webb did something he had never done before. He went to the hospital administrator's office, even though it was 3 in the morning, and called the administrator at home. This better be important, Marcus, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo said groggily. I need to report a suspicion of patient harm by a staff member. There was a long pause. I'm coming in. Don't say anything to anyone. Dr. Okonkwo arrived at 4 a.m. Dr. Webb laid out everything he had observed, the patterns, the statistics, the timing of emergencies, Rebecca's proximity to every incident. He explained his suspicion that Rebecca might be causing the emergencies she was so skilled at resolving. Dr. Okonkwo listened carefully, her expression grave. Do you understand what you're suggesting? Rebecca Hayes has been commended multiple times. Families love her. If you're wrong. I know, Dr. Webb interrupted. But if I'm right and we do nothing, she'll continue harming children. We need evidence. Real evidence, not just patterns. They decided to implement covert monitoring. Security cameras in patient rooms were technically against privacy regulations, but Dr. Okonkwo made the call to install hidden cameras in 3 rooms where Rebecca would be working, with special legal dispensation from the hospital's legal team and notification to the families involved. They told no one else. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Rebecca provided excellent care. No emergencies occurred. Dr. Webb began to doubt himself. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe the pattern was just coincidence. Then, on March 29th, 8-year-old Tyler Jackson was admitted for treatment of pneumonia. He was responding well to antibiotics and expected to recover quickly. Rebecca requested to be his night nurse. At 2:33 a.m., Dr. Webb was monitoring the camera feed from his office. He watched as Rebecca entered Tyler's room. The boy was sleeping peacefully. Rebecca checked his vitals, then looked around carefully. She reached into her pocket. Dr. Webb leaned forward, his heart pounding. Rebecca pulled out a syringe. She injected something into Tyler's foreport, then quickly disposed of the syringe in the sharps container. She adjusted Tyler's blankets, smiled down at him tenderly, then left the room. 3 minutes later, Tyler's monitors began alarming. Heart rate dropping, blood pressure falling. Rebecca rushed back in. Code blue, room 181. Dr. Webb was already running. This time, he stopped Rebecca before she could begin interventions. Step back, Nurse Hayes. Rebecca looked confused. Doctor, he's crashing. We need to. I said step back. Dr. Webb administered naloxone, a medication that reverses opioid overdoses. Within 90 seconds, Tyler's vitals began improving. The boy hadn't had a complication from pneumonia. He'd been given an overdose of morphine. Rebecca's face went pale. I don't understand what happened. I think you understand perfectly, Dr. Webb said quietly. Security was called. Rebecca was escorted from the hospital. The police were notified. The investigation revealed the horrifying scope of Rebecca Hayes' actions. A search of her locker found vials of various medications, insulin, potassium chloride, morphine, that she had been stealing from the medication dispensary. Analysis of the sharps container in Tyler's room revealed the syringe she'd used, with traces of morphine and her fingerprints. But it was the search of Rebecca's apartment that provided the most damning evidence. She had kept a journal, meticulously detailed, documenting every child she had harmed over the past 2 years. Without it, I'm nobody, just another nurse. Invisible. The journal documented 21 children over 2 years. Rebecca had been injecting them with medications that would cause their vitals to crash, but not quite enough to kill them. She calibrated the doses carefully, ensuring she could always bring them back. She wanted to be the hero, not a murderer, but her last entry revealed a chilling escalation. I've been thinking about what it would be like if I couldn't save one. If a child actually died despite my efforts. Would the sympathy be even greater? Would people see how hard I tried, how much I cared? I could be the tragic hero, the nurse who did everything possible but lost a patient anyway. Maybe next time I'll use a slightly higher dose. Just to see. The hospital reviewed all pediatric deaths in the past 2 years. Most were expected, children with terminal illnesses. But one stood out, 3-year-old Daniel Martinez, who had died unexpectedly during recovery from a minor surgery. Rebecca had been his nurse. The death had been ruled a tragic complication. Now investigators wondered if it had been Rebecca's first victim who didn't survive. The psychological evaluation of Rebecca Hayes revealed a diagnosis of Munchausen syndrome by proxy combined with severe narcissistic personality disorder. She craved attention, admiration, and the validation that came from being seen as extraordinary. In her personal life, she felt overlooked and insignificant. Her family rarely contacted her. She had no close friends. Social relationships felt empty. But at work, when she was saving a child's life, she was everything she wanted to be: important, valued, even loved. The gratitude of parents, the respect of colleagues, the commendations from administration, these fed a hunger that nothing else could satisfy. When the episodes of heroism weren't enough, she created more. The doses got larger. The emergencies got more frequent. She was spiraling, needing bigger fixes of validation and admiration. The trial was brief. The evidence was overwhelming. Rebecca's own journal convicted her. She was found guilty of 21 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of second-degree murder in the death of Daniel Martinez, and 21 counts of child endangerment. She was sentenced to 35 years to life in prison. At her sentencing, Rebecca finally broke down. I never meant to hurt them, she sobbed. I loved those children. I just needed them to need me. I needed to matter. Judge Raymond Foster looked at her with something between pity and disgust. You violated the most sacred trust in medicine. Parents left their vulnerable children in your care, and you harmed them to feed your own ego. Your need to matter nearly killed 21 children and did kill one. You are exactly where you belong. St. Catherine's Children's Hospital implemented sweeping changes. New protocols for medication tracking, mandatory psychological evaluations for all staff, random auditing of patient incidents, and enhanced security monitoring. They brought in trauma counselors for the families Rebecca had harmed. Dr. Marcus Webb was commended for his diligence, but he took no satisfaction in being right. He thought constantly about the children, about how close they'd come to death, or how much worse it could have been if he'd waited longer to act. Tyler Jackson recovered fully and went home with his parents. Sophie Chen, Aiden Cooper, Maya Patel, and the others all survived and were eventually discharged. But their parents would forever carry the knowledge that the kind nurse who held their children's hands had been the one poisoning them. Linda Chen struggled with guilt and nightmares. I thanked her, she told the counselor assigned to help families cope. I hugged her and thanked her for saving Sophie. And all along, she was the one who hurt her. How do I ever trust anyone again? The answer, the counselor explained gently, was that most people are trustworthy. Most nurses are genuinely dedicated to healing. Most caregivers truly care. Rebecca Hayes was an aberration, a predator who exploited the trust that medical care requires. But trust, once broken so profoundly, is hard to rebuild.